Welcome to the Whiskey Congress. Honest, open talk dedicated to speaking the truth to those who are open to hearing it. Black, white, right, left. Most importantly, honest, bold, and fueled by good whiskey. In Whiskey Veritas, we are Whiskey Congress. Join the evolution.
Whiskey Congress is back in session. Steven and I are together in the Cleveland studio. I almost feel like I want to start saying from an undisclosed location because shit's getting weird out there.
Yeah, I wanted you to say from an undisclosed location from the beginning, but
okay, well, it's out there. It's too late. The good news is that the drone will hit my house, not yours. So
yeah. I was looking out for you. You decided to be the one who wanted to be all out there. Now look at us.
Let's play Blame Jim for $300, Alex. All right. In all seriousness, though, what's going on in LA is fucking horrifying. If you don't know, there's riots related to the mass deportations or the deportations, whatever you want to call them. People started to protest. They were throwing rocks at officers, which is what protesters tend to do when people's rights are being violated. Not saying that it's great, but people are defending themselves. And now Trump is saying he wants to bring in take over the National Guard from Gavin Newsom and possibly bring in Marines. This is fucking, that's martial law, period.
Yeah, I don't think there's any argument about that, bud. When President of the United States is saying he's going to take control away from the governor, right, send in the National Guard, send in Marines, and then basically deploy U.S. troops on U.S. soil against U.S. citizens, that's definitely martial law. Look, I think this is. I almost said that you want to split this in half, and this is difficult, and there are layers and there's nuance to it, but you've got some people saying, like, you got to respect law enforcement and you can't. But here's my thing. You've got a citizenry that is saying we believe that the government is acting tyrannically.
Yes.
We believe that the government is wrong and violating our rights, and we believe that the government is a threat. And they are responding in kind. Right?
Right.
And they're not backing down. They're getting physical. And now the looting,
right.
It's LA. The looting never. The looting always.
It's baked into the cake.
Yeah, I mean, the looting always is that thing that you could throw in and just be like, oh yeah, well, why the looting?
Right.
Right. And it's almost like, look, I can't ignore it. You're right. Looting is wrong. Okay, but it is a direct response to like the overall situation.
Right.
Right. And so I don't support the looting at all. But if you've got a people who feel like the government has gone too far or is going too far, right, violating your rights, putting people in harm's way, operating illegally, then as a citizenry, right, we fight back.
Yeah.
Right. And so right now you got you've got all of LA fighting back. Right. And me personally, I don't think the smart move is for the government to escalate, right? But that's clearly what they're doing. That's what the president is doing. Stephen Miller with his comments yesterday, calling them vile creatures and everything else like that. I mean, you can quickly make the analogy and the comparison to Nazi Germany and everything else. And so,
right. Thanks for not making me do it.
Yeah, I mean, this is a volatile situation that seems to be being made worse every step of the way by pretty much everyone involved, and this is a place where the right leader, right? The right leader we're not even here, right? Like you figured out a different way to deal with the illegal immigration issue, but even if you're a good leader that maybe goes awry, get yourself into this situation where the people are this upset, right? You recognize it and you de-escalate. You don't push it, right? I mean, and that's what they're about to do. And so then the question is like, well, how widespread could that be? could you see them trying to do something like this in Chicago?
Yeah.
And New York?
Yeah.
And Washington, D.C.?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, pretty much any place that's...
Cleveland.
Yeah.
Morgantown, West Virginia.
Any place that's a Democratic stronghold. Right?
Maybe not Morgantown.
Right, exactly. But any place that's considered a Democratic stronghold, not a sympathizer city, but a sanctuary city. Yeah, they could do that. Anything that they deem close enough to being a sanctuary city, right? And they're like, well, we're doing this because if it happened in LA, it could happen in these places that we are considering sanctuary cities. So we're taking this preemptive measure, right, and putting all these places on martial law.
I don't remember who said it. I think it was Stephen Miller.
Martial law.
I think it was Stephen Miller, but I could be wrong. Someone said California is a sanctuary state, so they're trying to even expand it beyond L.A. And it's really scary. And this is where, when do people start?
Which is interesting because California has some really conservative regions
absolutely.
in it, right? So it's just they're willing to forego their foothold in some of these, you have very conservative
pockets
counties.
of Orange County are incredibly conservative.
Right, so they're wholesale willing to say, all right, you know what? Thanks for your vote, but it didn't do us any good, so fuck you. Your whole state is under martial law. Suck on this.
Right. Now, people will say that, the gun laws in California are so restricted that Second Amendment rights won't be able to protect citizens. And yes, it was me that said it, and not you. You, Ben, fine. You've won, or have you? But that's not exactly true. I've worked a lot in California, and in those places, gun laws they're definitely different than they are in Ohio or Texas. But it's not like there are no guns in those cities, and there's certainly lots of guns in LA. Some of them may not be arriving using those laws.
I mean, but look, let's just have a level conversation, right? If you're in LA right now, you're very uneasy.
Yeah.
Right? And what are you drinking?
Water with lemon juice.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. It was so cloudy, I was so concerned.
Yeah, my water. Stay focused, Steve. Focus here.
I'm sorry, I'm just like, dude, should you be drinking that? I thought it was, okay, anyway, sorry.
Squirrel.
That is me looking out for you
again.
Thank you. Twice in one show. It's a record. But if you're a citizen in LA, no matter where you come down on this, you're probably like, this is not good. I don't feel comfortable, right? I don't feel comfortable, because you could be a conservative, and then if you're seeing very aggressive tactical federal teams coming into high schools and snatching kids out, right? Like I could see, I know plenty of conservative people that voted for Trump that if they saw one of these instances of a high school kid being snatched out of a high school, that they would be uncomfortable with it, to the point where actually some of them have even said it, right? That are sort of starting the mold is starting to crack a little bit, and they're kind of like, I don't know if I like this, right? And then you compound that with, obviously, the protesters and the rioters,
right.
And then you compound that with the president saying, I'm going to bring in the federal government, right? And so, I'm going to bring in the military, I'm going to bring in the Marines or the National Guard, right? So if you're a concerned, conscious citizen, and you're like, now we're getting to the point where we've got state agencies, federal agencies, protesters, and this is California, so there's gangs and there's people looting and rioting and everything else. Like, I could see you saying, you know what? I need to be strapped up. Yeah. Now, here's the problem. If you're a normal citizen that, follows the rules and plays by the book and everything, then if you're in LA, chances are you either don't have a gun, or if you do, it's you've gone through the process, so you're limited to
10 rounds.
10 rounds, right? And if you know what I mean, like so now you have all those limitations, where us strong 2A people are saying like, hey, either if we're gonna have them, let us have them, because you could sit there all day and say, well, the probability of having to take on more than one, okay, the probability, you're right. But now those people are in a situation where they definitely want something that has more than 10 rounds in it.
Yes, Steve, they do. And you're right. And well, you know what?
Sing the song, Jim. No, I'm kidding.
It's funny because I was very concerned about this. I voiced the concerns that things like this would happen. I never imagined they would unfold at the rate and with the just neglect of the Constitution. By the way, this is being done, they're using the Insurrection Act. Can we get the administration to use a law written after 1900? Just one? I mean, all this shit is like, post-Revolutionary War.
But that's the thing, Jim. That's the thing. And this isn't a criticism of you or anyone else, right? This is just like, and I don't even know how you would see this as a criticism, but this is what makes them really good. The Trump administration and all the people in this sort of MAGA cult, right, is when it comes to campaigning, they're good at basically using the things that the Democrats put out there and then turning them on their heads.
Absolutely.
Right? And then once they get into office, what they're really good at is not Trump himself, right? But all the people he has around them, they have scoured.
Yeah.
Legal cases, laws, everything, right? And they go all the way back to the beginning, right? And they go all the way back to the furthest point that's most relevant, right? And then they say, oh, well, if you read this as it says, right, then it means this, which allows us to do this, right?
Sure.
And then they take that and then they put it up, and then it's like, yeah, well, that's old. And they're like, yes, but it's on the books.
Absolutely. And you're making a very, very valid point that this isn't Trump scouring histories. It's being done behind the scenes. He's just the mouthpiece, but he's an effective mouthpiece. You can't deny that.
And now we're at a point where it doesn't matter what your opinion is on Trump,
right?
Because Trump and MAGA is now like one of those Marvel supervillains that was not one person, but like a spatial entity.
Right.
Right, where it could shift form. A perfect example, if you saw the second Guardians of the Galaxy,
okay,
right? They had Kurt Russell playing, what's his name? The main character, Christopher Pratt.
Gosh, you know the
Anyway,
better than me.
The leader of the Guardians of the Galaxy, his dad was Kurt Russell. I don't know why that is escaping me right now, which is ridiculous. I'm a Marvel freak.
You are a Marvel freak.
But the character that it was supposed to be was supposed to be a god, but he was a god, but he wasn't a person as we see him. He was this giant entity that created this network that ran throughout the universe, right? And now that's what MAGA is. Trump is Kurt Russell, right? But MAGA, in the overall Trump effect, has now created this entire entity that has tentacles and touches every aspect of the universe that is our political ecosystem. Star-Lord, yes. But so in that, like, in the movie, technically, if you killed Kurt Russell, right, the core of the brain, then you would kill the whole thing. But if you killed just Kurt Russell, you didn't necessarily kill him. You just killed that version that he presented to you, right? So if you eliminated Trump right now, MAGA doesn't die. Do you know what I mean? Like,
I know what you mean. And
if Trump were to go, if Trump were to drop dead of a heart attack right now, MAGA doesn't die. Right, JD Vance goes into president, right?
Yep.
And there's no reason for him to pump the brakes.
Other than he's not an absolute sociopathic narcissist.
I don't know if he's not that though.
Okay, well, I hope he's not because I hope.
I mean, but you can hope it.
Shit in the other. I get it.
But I mean, I don't trust that at all. what I see happening, J.D. Vance would move into the seat of the president, and they would push the narrative even harder, right? And turn Trump into a martyr, even if he died of natural causes in office, right? And they're going to carry on his legacy, right? And they're going to push even harder, right? And things get easier for him or for them because you don't have the Trump effect, right? Where Trump's just out there riffing and winging it. Right now, you've got a person like J.D. Vance who's going to come in with his, law degree and Ivy League education and, enough sense to know that he needs to prepare and strategize and everything else. And now I think, could become even more dangerous if that happens. You know what I'm saying?
I know exactly what you're saying.
And he could empower even more, right? Because Trump wanted it all about him and he wanted the spotlight on him. J.D. Vance to say, we're going to take some of that away, right? And I'm going to empower those around me even more to implement this plan, right? I mean, I that's what we're dealing with.
Yeah. And a perfect case in point, I mean, sort of a parallel case in point is Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the guy scooped up in Maryland, sent to a prison in El Salvador. Supreme Court rules 9-0, you have to bring him back. Trump administration drags their feet.
Says we can't get him back.
Do it. So now they're bringing him back, but they've already indicted him. And Stephen Miller was out there saying, the heinous charges of this awful human being, I forget what names he called him, and said, you know what, we're going to throw him in jail, and as soon as we're out, we're going to send him right back to El Salvador where he's from. He's Venezuelan, so he's not from El Salvador. Sure. But that notwithstanding, they defied the order, and now they're indicting him. They're going to run this through the media. And
here's the thing. Okay. This is the question that I have, and I think this may be what you're getting at. I hope it is. Right? Are the charges real? Right? Like the charges are real because they're charging him,
right?
Yes, and they're indicting him.
Are they valid?
But are they valid? Are they supported? Right? Is there proof, or did John Roberts pick up the phone and say, "Hey"? Right now, did John Roberts do the thing in private? What I said he should have done in public, where he should have said, "Hey, we made a decision 9-0, right? I don't give a fuck about your media nonsense, right? The Constitution is what it is, right? We have checks and balances, and we gave an order. You follow it, figure it the fuck out, hang up the phone." And they said, "All right, fine. This is how we'll follow it. Let's trump up some charges against this guy, bring him back, and then kick him back."
But here's the thing that is most important to me. I don't know anything about this guy other than what I've heard in the media. If he's guilty of these crimes, charge him, prosecute him, but give him due fucking process. Skipping that is the problem. Now, I don't know if this guy is good, bad, or somewhere in between.
But here's the thing. If they give him due process on charges that are not valid, then that's not due process.
I agree with you.
But what I'm saying, so you're 100% right, and I agree with you, right? If he really is a human trafficker or, whatever,
right?
An MS-13 gang lord, human trafficking, drug trafficking, gun running. Okay, fine. Then get him the fuck out of here, right? But to your point, got to go through due process, right? And that needs to be actually true,
right? Oh yeah, if this is manufactured, and I'm
because my issue is they said nothing about this, right?
No, they said he committed domestic violence, so that was their first thing. Well, this guy's a wife beater. Okay, prove that and throw him in jail.
But again, with these charges specifically, if you did you just discover this in the last couple of weeks?
Right.
Right. After we looked at it a little further, we realized he's a human trafficker. It seems
awfully convenient.
It seems really convenient to me that if you were investigating him for this, then you would have brought this up when the case went to the fucking Supreme Court and you were looking for a valid reason to ship him off to fucking El Salvador. Right?
Even though he's Venezuelan, but still, the Supreme Court still said due fucking process.
Fine. But if you're looking for a reason, hey, look, due process my ass. The guy was trafficking humans for cartel purposes across the U.S. Then you would have brought that up to the Supreme Court, shown them the proof of it to say he was such a threat, we had to get him out of here. And we don't, you don't want us to bring him back, right?
Right.
Am I crazy?
No, you're not crazy.
At least because if I'm the lawyers in this, I'm like, all right, we need to make sure that we give the Supreme Court, SCOTUS, and every possible reason to rule in our favor. So if you got anything, give it to me. And it seems like someone who said, well, we got this human trafficking thing, right?
Right. And that was based on a traffic stop where he had people in the car and a couple of police officers said, this doesn't seem right. Mind you, they pulled him over for speeding and didn't even give him a fucking ticket. So they're reaching for straws, but the ability of the federal government to cook up bullshit charges is not beyond their powers.
And that's where, and that's why I say it has to start with the legitimacy of the charges to get to the due process aspect. Because due process on false charges and false claims isn't due process.
And again, this might be wishful thinking on my part, but the possibility of this blowing up in their face. So this goes to court and their charges get shown to be pure bullshit. Now it'll be a federal case, so there won't be cameras in the courtroom. We know this because of the Diddy trial. And by the way, the sketch artist in the Diddy trial is awful. This is going to get a whole lot of attention, and this could end up in front of the Supreme Court. So it's a fucking mess, and you're right. If this was legitimate, it wouldn't have been, he was accused of domestic violence. It would have been, this guy's a human trafficker, and we have all this evidence. And you know what? He still should get due process. Throw his ass in jail? Absolutely, if that's true. But it should not, his deportation to El Salvador is on its face illegal, and people in the Justice Department should be held accountable for it. They won't.
And the other thing that should be pointed out, because if we have a conservative listening to the show, they're going to say, well, he's illegal. He doesn't get due process. No, that's not true. Fourth and Fifth Amendment, right? If you are a person within the boundary lines of the United States, you get due process.
Yes.
Right? Whether you're a U.S. citizen or not, here legally or not, you are going to get due process. That's not progressive rhetoric. That's not me making it up. That's multiple federal Supreme Court cases that are saying you don't got to be a citizen to get due process in the United States. That's it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And if that due process is, hey, you're here illegally, we're going to deport you, that's fine. Not just scooped up in the middle of the night or in broad daylight, thrown into a van, driven to a detention center, and shipped to a country that you have no real connection with. But that is what's happening in our country right now. And all of this with the backdrop of the budget thing going through, which is we need to cut taxes for the ultra-wealthy and slash all these medical programs, or some government programs, and a lot of the conservative people in Congress are getting crushed at town halls by their constituents because of some of the stuff in there. And Marjorie Taylor Greene used this defense, and so did some others. Oh, well, I didn't read that part. Oh, so you didn't do your fucking job.
Yeah.
And, I mean, realistically, members of Congress don't read 900-page bills. But they should have, people working for them, staffers, who are reading it and
the issue is the issue is both what you said, or what you're trying to say is, Marjorie Taylor Greene may not have read it, but her team should have read it, and you're not wrong.
She should be aware,
except for the fact that they get thrown these bills in the ninth hour.
Right.
It's just like someone puts the bill in front of them at 9 o'clock at night, and it's like, oh yeah, we're going to vote on it at 10 o'clock at night. You've got 10 hours to read 900 pages and identify the issues that you agree with or don't agree with. And oh, by the way, we're not going to listen to it or change anything. We're going to vote on it. And because of the political environment that we're in, it's either you're with us or against us. So you better vote on it. And if you don't, we're going to primary you and drag you through the mud.
And this is where the real news of the week comes into play. And
Democrats do that too, right? Like they did that with the ACA and everything else. I mean, that's just standard Congress operations, which
is a huge problem. Yes. Right. Yes, absolutely. That's the most bipartisan thing to do is just jam so much shit into a bill. And I would love to discuss how it should be fixed, but now's not the time. But interestingly, out of this comes Elon Musk calling the big, beautiful bill, the big, ugly, something really clever like that. And the Trump versus Elon feud began. I was actually out with my buddy Dave I was talking to my buddy Dave from Philly, and I said, how long will the bromance last? I asked that question Wednesday. I'm driving home from New Jersey on Thursday, and I was listening to an audiobook, and I switched over to CNN, and boom, that was like, holy shit. And so Trump and Elon, ugly breakup, and a spat between fucking junior high prissy girls.
Look, it's when you go through and you look at some of the different issues that are being brought up with this spat between them, right? Elon Musk is attacked. Now, I also want to make this point, right? There are a lot of progressives and Democrats and left-leaning people. Like now, all of a sudden, Elon is back in their good graces because he's going after Trump, and it's just like, are you guys paying attention? Right? Like Elon doesn't give a shit that that this bill cuts services that people rely on to live.
He championed that cause.
Right? He doesn't care about the rollback of
Medicare and Social Security.
He doesn't care about the attack on even our due process rights and our civil liberties. Right? He doesn't care. Like what his issue is. Right, or issues are, right, one, it increases the deficit, right, and it's the opposite of reducing the government spending. It is a direct attack on, the electric vehicle industry, right, in the U.S. because they're removing the tax credit for EV vehicles, removing the, any incentive for sustainability, which between his solar projects and his cars and everything else are all supported by. So you combine the fact that it's not fiscally responsible and it's a direct attack on multiple industries that he's in. He's fighting back against that. He's not fighting back for the people. This is about Elon Musk.
It is very, very much self-serving.
And so I think the everyone jumping on not everyone, but the people jumping on the Elon Musk bandwagon because he's in a tiff with Trump is grossly misplaced.
Absolutely.
Right? Like you could sit there and kind of marvel at this meltdown between the two of them and kind of laugh at them, but like just understand that this is none of this, neither one of them are out there for you. Right, and no matter who wins this, you, the person jumping on the Elon Musk bandwagon, are still getting fucked.
Yeah, and just let's talk more about Trump's retaliation. So they have their back and forth, and then Trump starts threatening to pull government contracts from SpaceX and other Musk entities. So there's just so much, scumminess on both sides.
And then so Trump's like, we're going to cancel Elon Musk government contracts, and Elon Musk is like, cool. Well, we're just going to decommission the main thing you need in the space program to, get back and forth to the space station, which is a big deal. And then you'll be forced to rely on Russia, which seems to be something that you will enjoy. So don't even worry about it, dude. We got it, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's nasty.
It is insane. It is absolutely insane. And then Elon plays the Trump isn't releasing the Epstein files because he's in them. And why that's a bombshell, I don't know, because we know this. We've known this for years.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen the pictures, we've seen the videos. Like they were good friends, and Trump, and during his last administration, like, look, we were friends up until I found out he was a weirdo, and then I banned him from Mar-a-Lago, and I didn't see him after that. That was Trump's sort of thing.
That was his. Now I've heard multiple sources say it was really over Epstein buying outbidding Trump on a property. So it was this petty little bitch move.
But okay, fine, whatever. That's neither here nor there. But to your point, we all know that there was a connection to Trump and Epstein.
Yeah.
We've seen it.
Yes.
Actually seen them together, both pictures and video, right? So if you're going to have a file on Epstein that goes back and covers him for the last 30 years, then everyone knows that Trump is in those files in some way, shape, or form. Trump has even acknowledged it and got out ahead of it. So that's not really the bombshell that, to your point, I don't think that's a bombshell to any of us.
Well, not to us, though, but there are people out there who are going, oh, you don't know. So there is a lot, the level of ignorance out there is fucking amazing.
But it's
willful ignorance, sure, but it's ignorance still.
But my thing is, has Elon seen something in those files that goes beyond what we've seen, what we know?
Right.
Right. Now that's the point, and I can't even speculate because I don't know what level of access they gave him, right? If you're the Trump administration, why would you give him that leverage, right, to see something like that?
Or did they give it to him, or did they hack into it?
Well, that's the other thing. That's where I was going to go next.
Okay.
Is like, were they not given access to it, but they said, oh, what's in these Epstein files, and it was like, oh shit, right?
Right.
And Elon is still holding that Trump card.
Again,
right?
well played.
To his advantage, because maybe there's a way that they're able to work out a deal, or maybe he doesn't want to completely torch the whole relationship, and then he really doesn't want to lose those contracts, so he's holding that back. But then if they actually yank the contracts, then all of a sudden Musk says, oh yeah, well, look at this video and look at this. I don't know.
I don't either.
But there was something else that came out of that, right? So we're seeing the back and forth between Trump and Elon and whatever, and all the MAGA people are like, it is causing a little bit of a division between the MAGA consortium, if you will, right? Like some are obviously very pro-Trump, and then some are like, yeah, Elon's right, and blah, blah, blah. But so this comes out of it, and it starts with Alex Jones. Actually, it starts with a tweet from Elon Musk.
You really want to read this, Steve?
You
knew that was happening.
It starts with a tweet from Elon Musk. Time to drop the really big bomb. At real Donald Trump is in the Epstein files. That is the real reason they have not been made public. Okay, so you had referenced that in our previous conversation a few minutes ago. Alex Jones' reply to that tweet from Elon Musk is, this world stands on the brink of total destruction.
Not wrong.
All right. I mean, dramatic, but again, not wrong. Another guy, Buck Millions, whoever that is, verified on Twitter, meaning he pays $8 a month. Now you understand the pain in Dan Bagnino's eyes, who Dan Bagnino is the director of the FBI. He was a
former Fox guy,
podcaster. I think he worked for the FBI.
I think it's right. FBI or Secret Service. I think it might be Secret Service, but either way.
Maybe one or the other or both.
Okay.
Which isn't uncommon. But, law enforcement guy turns commentator, is now director of the FBI. But this Buck Millions guy says, now you understand the pain in Dan Bagnino's eyes when you see him on any public media. He knows. He knows the reasons the Epstein list won't drop. He knows the assassination was faked. He knows the level of the grift with foreign money in Middle Eastern countries. Sad to see. Alex Jones' reply, maybe.
That's big. Because Alex Jones is a conspiracy theorist. That's his shtick.
Yeah.
If he's a heavyweight conspiracy theorist, I'm a junior middleweight conspiracy theorist. I've been saying for a long time that there's a lot of things in the story about the assassination attempt that were really fishy. If I'm being completely honest, I've chosen not to say anything about it on our show or even much in public because I don't want to get labeled as a kook. And obviously I can't prove anything, but there are a whole lot of holes in that story. How some 20-year-old nobody ends up outsmarting the Secret Service gets shots off, how Trump immediately jumps up and yells, fight, fight, fight. And then however many weeks later, he's on Joe Rogan's podcast after his personal doctor, former White House doctor, Ronnie Jackson, I always get his name wrong, but fuck that guy, said that there was a 2-centimeter gash in his ear from a bullet. A couple weeks later, he's on Joe Rogan, and Joe Rogan says, oh yeah, I can kind of see something. If you took a 223 in the ear, it ain't getting better in weeks. Unless you're Wolverine or Deadpool, we'll stick with the regeneration guys, that's visible for the rest of your life. Don't believe me? Ask Evander Holyfield. So I've always had suspicions about that. Now, I would love it for Alex Jones to go hardcore into that conspiracy because he's turned on Trump in the past. Now, he flipped back, but I remember a video of him yelling, fuck Trump on his show. So he's nuts, but he's kind of crazy like a fox. He knows a lot of the shit he's spewing is bullshit, and it just makes him money. But for him to say maybe on a public forum owned by Elon Musk, the reshuffling of Cobra Commander, as you like to call it, or Cobra Commander was the guy, whatever the organization was. Cobra, okay. Hence the commander being Cobra Commander. Everything is in a fucking tizzy in terms of what's going on in MAGA world. I don't know if there is a happy solution from my perspective here. Steve, in all seriousness, call me whatever you want, but alarmist, whatever you want. But the possibility of division within the major, upper brass of the military. Trump orders the Marines to go into California. One general says, not doing that. Not constitutional. I took an oath to the Constitution, not to you. Other ones say, Trump, we got your back. We now have military fighting military. And I don't know how that plays out. And the stuff I'm saying right now, if someone had said it to me 5 years ago, I would have politely said, wow, that's really interesting. Check, please. And now I'm saying it, and I wish I thought I was...
Probably 11, 12 years ago, because 5 years ago, Trump is in office or still in office.
No, but even in his first term, I didn't envision flipping the military on the citizenry. Yeah, maybe I'm being too generous. Who knows? But now it's happening, or may happen. And by the way, it's worth pointing out that Jeffrey Epstein died in federal custody under the Trump administration. There are people who believe he committed suicide. There are people who believe he did not.
Look, I saw, someone put out a video of Megyn Kelly, formerly of Fox, and then went to NBC, and now she has her own podcast, YouTube whatever. Yep. But Megyn Kelly saying that Epstein wasn't murdered, that he's in witness protection, and we only saw his body being removed from the cell, but we didn't actually see his dead body.
I've considered that to be a possibility. I never went there.
A few other people had picked up on that and were saying similar things, and that there's proof of it in this whole thing. I don't know. In going back to what kind of spurred this aspect of the conversation was the tweet. Like, look, I don't know if there's any veracity to anything that guy says, the Millions guy, Buck Millions. I have no idea if there's any veracity to the statement that he made.
Right.
I just think it's interesting, right? Who Alex Jones, big Trump supporter. Yes, he's turned on him in the past, but also has clearly
gotten right back in line. Yep.
Gotten right back in line, especially with his connections to Elon Musk and everything else. I just think that is something worth looking at. Like, okay. And then when you have Elon Musk talking about Trump is unequivocally in the Epstein files, right? Like, right. Okay, we knew that, but what do you know about that, right? Like, we all know that he's there. We've seen the videos. We've seen the tapes. Have you seen more than what we've seen and had access to? And is it, and how, what exactly have you seen? How bad is it? Sort of deal. I just think that those things, there's a connection there. Who knows only a very select few people know how true they are, but it's worth, like, there seems to be a little smoke there, right? And
a little smoke.
Yeah, I'm just saying, there just seems to be some smoke there, and the question is there a fire or not?
Well, and it's also worth noting that Elon Musk owns the ability to get the word out. So he doesn't need to say this shit. If he's got stuff, he can have some fake Twitter account, or X account, put it out there.
Or a real one.
Or a real one. But I mean, if he wants to do it anonymously.
I mean, what would stop him from saying, hey, Whiskey Congress, I'll give you $100,000 and I'm going to write a series of tweets that I want you guys to put out.
Right.
Right. Like, and
he's not going to block them.
And I'll boost them and I'll make sure that you get a ton of views. I don't want this to come from me, so I'm going to put this out with a group that has no affiliation with me and has even openly criticized me on my own platform.
Right. We have done that.
Which, you got me there. And then he's like, and then you look at it and he's just pumping you information that he's seen, video evidence, pictures, statements, quotes, whatever. One, we're taking the money. Two, we're sending those tweets out at whatever rate he wants us to.
Uh-huh.
Right? I mean, look, I'm not saying that's
50-50, by the way.
Right? But, and I'm not totally pulling that out of my ass, right? So if you remember, shortly after he first bought Twitter, the Twitter files were released. How were they released? He used the journalist Matt Taibbi, right? And he goes to Matt and says, "Here, I'm going to give you all this information. I'll give you access to our organization so you could see what we're seeing, and you put it out there." And
then Matt Taibbi goes on Joe Rogan with a $4 million person viewership.
Well, he does that, but he also, puts it on his Substack,
sure.
Right, where he charges, an amount, and he gets paid. Like, so everything I said, there's some form, like, it's not the exact same thing, but you see what I'm saying,
yeah,
right? Like, Taibbi's able to financially benefit off of it, along with raising his profile by going on Rogan. And he's a guy that people knew, right? Like, if you, not everyone, but if you were, really keyed into sort of politics over the last 5-10 years, you knew who he was. And I don't know. I think, again, like I said, I'm not saying that, Elon Musk could be full of shit. We know Alex Jones is a conspiracy theorist that's his whole stick. That's how he generates money. No idea who Buck Millions is, right? All of this could be just people throwing gas on the fire. But there could be something to it. And if there is, whoa.
Well, first of all, I have a problem with what you just said. Our price is $1 million. 100,000, bullshit. $1 million, Elon. That's our price.
That motherfucker comes to me with $100,000, then I will just do it and not tell you. How about that?
Well, how about that? Cash you outside? All right, and this leading right up to the next authoritarian, fascist-ish event that's coming up, I believe, this week. I think it's the 14th of June. They're planning to have a military parade in front of Trump in downtown Washington, D.C. Now, I've heard members of Congress who are former military say that they find this revolting for a variety of reasons. One, they hate being put on display like they're a fucking toy, and marching is the last thing they want to do. But symbolically, again, this is fucking terrifying. Rolling tanks through the streets of D.C., which, by the way, will probably fuck up the streets in D.C. big time, is symbolically and realistically terrifying. Shows what Trump is all about, and this is all Trump.
Yeah, I mean, it's all Trump, and I saw an interview with the former special forces guy, and he's like, "Look, we're trained to fight, we're not trained to march and do this shit, right? Like, we are trained to fight. This is not who and what we are." and this is a slap in the face to what we do. And that's and he's known conservative, known special for and it's like why would you like
you know the answer to that question because your ego is so fucking overwhelming and you want the world to worship at your feet. That's why.
I mean, it's just I get him, but I also don't, because that's not who and what I am, right? Like, that's not who and what you are, where you're going to want that level of, hey, look at me, everyone come and kiss me. Like, that's just, so it's just so hard for me to wrap my head around, right? And I do understand the ego and the narcissism and everything else around Trump, right? But it's just so hard for me to understand, right, why you think this is a good idea, that's a valuable idea, when the other people who do this, right, are terrible leaders, whether it's North Korea or
Hitler.
Hitler, yes. Like, I mean, and Hitler's the most obvious one, right? But we've seen other...
Kim Jong-un is pretty obvious, too, though.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, that's right now, when you look at it just... The thing that you brought up earlier was military fighting military. What I wish it would happen is someone in the military looking at Trump and saying, no.
Right. And in the previous administration, they did. Mark Milley said no. I don't know. I think there were other senior members of the military brass that said, we don't do that with our military. That's not what we're about.
Also,
now all the yes men are doing their jobs, saying yes.
You also have a budget, right? Yeah. Where you're complaining about being,
wasting
trillions
money.
of dollars in debt, right? You're in a fight for your life for a budget that, again, raises the debt ceiling and increases the budget.
I mean, they want to eliminate the debt ceiling, I believe.
Well, no, they want to increase it. Just to the point where you might as well eliminate it.
Okay.
Right, but I mean, so you got all that going on. You're fighting for this bill, right? The big complaints about it is that it increases the budget or increases the deficit, and it hurts us fiscally from a fiscal standpoint. And you want to go do this that's going to cost millions and millions, if not close to $1 billion, right?
And this is the game that always should be played more, actually, is if a Democrat did this, what would happen? And I truly believe that left-wing media, if a Democrat did this, would say, no, this is not good. I truly believe Rachel Maddow, if Obama had a military parade, Rachel Maddow would say, I love you, Mr. President, but this ain't good. The fact that they're not getting the pushback from the Fox Newses and the Newsmaxes is just further proof that it's not an apples-to-apples game when you talk left-wing and right-wing media.
Especially the people on Fox that are still Trump supporters but have issues with where the budget is going to take the deficit.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Shouldn't you be screaming and yelling like this is a terrible waste of money for a country that is in almost insurmountable amount of debt?
Right.
Right. I mean, where it feels like the response is like, yeah, we're in so much debt. Fuck it. Who cares? Right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, right. The credit cards are maxed out. Just
whatever.
Get another one. Keep charging.
Order a steak. Let's go.
Yep. And Steve, I'm seeing that both on the government level and on personal level. I see so many people doing shit outside of their means, and I'm thinking, is it all just we are now in fuck it, we're in eternal debt mode, so why stop the party now?
Right. It's almost like some people, on a personal level, but it's weird because I see the same thing that you do, right? Where you've got people just that I know, right, that are just on the one hand, basically on the verge of bankruptcy, but then, going on vacations and they've, bought cars and done all this sort of stuff. And it's just almost like, look, are you kind of hoping this whole thing collapses and none of it matters? And in the meantime, you're just going to live it up? Or what's your thought process here?
Yeah.
Do you really think that Trump's going to somehow bail you out with a $150,000 check, which is probably what you would need to get out of debt at this point? I don't know. I don't understand it.
And I've been very personally fiscally conservative my whole life. And if the dollar gets devalued before I actually get to have fun with the money I've saved, on a personal level, I'm going to be that much more pissed because, damn it, I was the grasshopper and the ant story. All right, we got to wrap up pretty soon, but I do need to acknowledge you've been saying it all along. I've kind of taking some shots, but Aaron Rodgers is now officially a Pittsburgh Steeler. Not the best segue I've ever done, but I never run out of time. So take your victory lap. I think you're happy about it, right?
Look, there's no victory lap for me to take, right? I mean, Aaron is a 40-plus-year-old quarterback, albeit a Hall of Famer. Will be 2 years removed from an Achilles rupture. So it's not really the ideal situation.
Right.
Aaron Rodgers was literally the third option for the Steelers in terms of bringing in an experienced quarterback to sort of take over. They tried to trade for Matt Stafford, and that was unsuccessful. They couldn't re-sign Justin Fields. Essentially, what I'm hearing, they essentially offered Justin Fields about what they're offering Aaron Rodgers right now. Maybe a little bit more, but the Jets came in with a solid $20 million per year, and Justin Fields was just like, that's a no-brainer.
Right.
And so the Steelers were kind of left at the altar. We know they didn't want Russell Wilson back, so they go out and they get Aaron Rodgers. He was the best available option. And I would tend to agree, right? Although I could make an argument that maybe you give Mason Rudolph a try, and that probably gets you closer to your result that you want. If you're a negative Steeler fan, you want Mike Tomlin fired. You want the Steelers to tank so that they can draft one of the quarterbacks next year's draft high, right? Like you've got a bevy of third-round picks and additional picks. So
trade up for Arch Manning or whoever's
you're hoping
flavor of the month.
You're hoping that you basically have a losing season that gets you drafting in the teens that then allows you to put a package together to move up to draft in the top 10, right?
Yep.
And because everyone loves this quarterback class, which I do not. I think I've been on record saying that, at least on social media. I do not love this next year's draft class like everyone else does. But nonetheless, that's if you're a negative Steeler fan, that's what you want. I am not that, right? Like I enjoy football too much to be that negative. I'm an optimistic fan, and I'm just looking at this team rationally. Riddle me this. This team in 23 started the season with Kenny Pickett.
Right.
Then Mitch Trubisky comes in, shits the bed.
Yep.
Mason Rudolph comes in, wins 4 games. They go to the playoffs. We lose to the Bills. Right.
Yep.
We have a couple turnovers in that game. We allow Josh Allen to run on a ridiculous 60-yard touchdown. We lose the game.
Someone's called an awesome 60-yard touchdown.
Right. Okay, fine. But I mean, come on.
That was an amazing play.
It wasn't. He literally just ran. He went untouched, which is okay, great, fantastic.
Sorry,
but do you mean to tell that
wasn't super
when you've got the highest paid defense in the league? It just seems kind of ridiculous that this dude, who's a big dude and athletic, goes untouched for 60 yards. That's crazy.
It was
right.
awesome.
Like it's just
I remember that play very well. And he got a few yards. You're like, oh, he's not going to get caught.
Right. So that's how that season. Okay, fine. But my thing is that team won 10 fucking games with Kenny Pickett, who is now in a fight with Joe Flacco, Shadur Sanders, and Dylan Gabriel, and technically Deshaun Watson with the Browns.
Technically.
Right. And then Joe Flacco, who's 40 years old
42,
himself. Right. And then I think actually Joe Flacco is like 38, 39, but whatever.
Anyway.
But either way, so you've got that situation going on, and then Mitch Trubisky is happily back on the Bills roster, not doing anything,
holding a clipboard very well,
just being a good teammate. Right?
He is being a good teammate,
right?
We
and everyone hoping and praying that
we never see him on the field unless we're up 44-2, and it's
exactly.
like okay,
right? Like just to make sure that Josh Allen doesn't get hurt, and that team won 10 games. So you mean to tell me that this Steelers team that has since then added more to their offensive line, right? Offensive line should theoretically be better this year, right? Went in, solved one of their big problems was on defense, which was a lack of defensive linemen. They drafted 2 this year and signed 2 more in the offseason, right? Not to mention other pieces that they've added on defense. This team is a better team, at least on paper, than it was in 23. And then the person at the helm is Aaron Rodgers and not Kenny Pickett, Mitch Trubisky, Mason Rudolph. Right. Now, look, I personally think that Mason Rudolph still has a chance of being a good quarterback in the NFL. And maybe there's an argument to say that maybe you go with him because if he has turned the corner, then he's your best opportunity to win and maybe even win a playoff game. Since he does have the experience in the playoffs.
Right.
And he didn't have a great year in Tennessee, but Tennessee was fucking terrible last year all the way around. Right. But all I'm saying is I find like all the people that are just like the Steelers are going to have a losing season. This is the worst roster, blah, 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 blah. Like, I'm just looking at it objectively and just looking at the last 5 years, right? Like, this team, like, with a really fucked up – if you go back and you look at all the different quarterbacks who started for the Steelers since Ben retired, Kenny Pickett, Mitch Trubisky, Mason Rudolph, Russell Wilson, Justin Fields – right, like all those different guys.
Duck,
that played,
whatever the hell.
What's that?
Duck. What was it? What was that guy?
Well, that was before. I mean,
okay,
that was
okay.
Yeah, that was 2019.
Oh, was it really that long ago?
Yeah, because that was the year that Ben tore his elbow.
That's right. That's right. Ben was still out there. Yeah.
They went with Mason Rudolph, who actually did a decent job, and then Earl Thomas basically breaks his face when we played the Ravens. So then we had to bring in Duck Hodges.
There we go.
And then Duck Hodges actually does okay.
He did.
And then but here's the thing. That team, 16-game season, that team won 8 games, right?
Yeah.
With
Duck
Hodges and Mason Rudolph. So all I'm saying is I just think it's wild to think that you're going to be that much worse with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback. All things considered.
No, I think for 1 year, Aaron Rodgers, last year, he didn't play badly for the Jets.
Yeah, he got a slow start, and then, the last 10 games of the season, he threw 16 touchdowns and 4 interceptions, right? Like, so, I don't know. That's pretty good. If you take that out over the course of a 17-game season, what do you get? 30 touchdowns and 10 interceptions, and he went 28 and 12 or whatever. So, I don't know. I'm kind of neutral on it. I don't hate it. I don't love it. But I just think for everyone who thinks that this is the Steelers' demise, I just think that you want that to be the case, but you don't have anything to justify that being the case.
All right, man, we got to wrap up. You ready to roll?
Yep.
We are at Whiskey Congress on X. Yes, that's right, Elon. You heard the price. And on Instagram. And we're done. Twitter.